Been a while since I posted prop stuff on this channel, but that was one of the things it was originally set up for. So I want to get back into some of that. I've got some things to share. I spent some time on set earlier this month working on the Gamers Dorkness Falls, which is awesome to see some of those folks that I worked with like 20 years ago and get to help them wrap up those stories. Sadly, it was only 2 days, but I learned some good stuff. Had some good experiments with things to do, things not to do that I want to share in terms of armoring and wrangling and stuff. So I'll share some of those later. But since what tends to be most popular on this channel is product reviews, I want to share something exciting that I just learned that I actually didn't use for that film because I didn't know it existed until about a week ago. But it's brand new, and that is that Windlass is making an aluminum sword. Now, Windlass Steelcraft has gotten kind of a mixed rep, justifiably so. A lot of their early stuff, well, their early stuff, like museum reps used to use Del Tin, and then they stopped going through Del Tin. They started using Windlass out of India. A lot of them were, borderline. They had some quality control issues. Some of them, the tangs were a little small. They weren't ideal for stage combat. Often they were a little bit thin and pointy. Not to the point of being sharp enough to use for cutting practice, but you could sharpen them. So they were kind of not really perfect for anything, but we're kind of hedging their bets between them. So not sharp enough for cutting, not blunt enough for stage really on their own without a little bit of blunting usually. Not historically accurate enough for museum HEMA kind of stuff that's really historically accurate, but not flexible enough and blunt enough for HEMA training. They were great for drills, they were great for costume, although, again, borderline on safety for some of that. Wearing around Ren fairs or something, usually fine, usually piece-bound anyway. So anyway, mixed on their steel. But, they've had some better stuff, some better than others. But this is the first time that I've heard of them making an aluminum sword. Now, aluminum, for those of you who don't know, it's lighter, it's softer. It has been a staple in Hollywood stunt work for decades now because it is lighter. So you can make it, you can stop it faster, you can accelerate it faster. Hollywood, you expect faster fights than they do in live theater usually. It often didn't sound as good, but that didn't really matter because you could Foley it. Or if you go back far enough, they just didn't care. You can kind of hear it in some of the 1940s films, the clack, clack, clack of aluminum. But when you get into actual decent aluminum, like 70-75 aircraft aluminum, it's decently sturdy. It's got a little bit of flex and spring, can absorb some damage. So it's not like early Highlander when they were making cheap swords as props out of cheap aluminum, and they'd go through 6 of them in a fight because they kept breaking and dinging up. It's gotten better. And they've also then started to see more use in live theater because people have realized, hey, these are lighter. You can make them have thicker edges and still be just as light, so it can be safer. Aluminum training blades for martial arts have been a standard for a while, although those tend to be not the nice 70-75. Those are usually a 6,000 range. So it's a little bit softer. But training knives, you're not making a lot of blade contact. When you get to a sword length thing, you need a little bit more strength and durability. So they tend to not be quite as durable as steel, not sound quite as good as steel, but they can be a lot safer. If you're going to be hit with a blunt object, the lighter it is, the less it hurts. They're also demonstrably not real blades, which can help if you're providing props for a school production or something like that, where they want to know, or even just your film insurance, they want to know that you're not using real blades. And I have had some productions where people showed up with some sharp blades, and makes me a little unhappy. So anytime I'm propping something, honestly on film, I would much rather be using a mix of aluminum and foam and cut down special effects blades, things like that, and keeping the steel just for the hero shots if we can. But let's get to the good stuff. So here we have, and so far as I know, this is the only one they make, a Windlass Steelcraft aluminum sword. It says Windlass since 1943, made in India. An aluminum Gladius trainer. Now, I'm going to compare this to a few things, but first let's just look at first impressions. It's super light, as you would expect from aluminum. It's not a high polish, but I wouldn't necessarily expect most, especially early period swords, to be super shiny anyway. That's fine. Sound is pretty good. It is threaded. One of the issues that you sometimes have, or at least appears to be, let's see if I can make it come out. That's not what I'm going to do. One of the issues you sometimes have with aluminum swords, and I had this with some of my first ones, is that because it is softer, if you use the same kind of threading that you do for steel swords and just thread on the pommel, it's really easy to strip the threading, hand tightening. I'm guessing that they glued this in addition to threading because it just does not want to budge. I don't want to mess with it too much. But I can see in here that tang is not bad. It's not rat tail anyway, which is one of the things you want to watch for. It's about looks like about a 1-inch tang, at least at the shoulders. It's not as wide as it could be. The groove has got like an extra, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little more gap on each side, so it could have had a wider tang. And I'm not sure that saves them any money, because if you're cutting it from our stock, which I assume they're doing, is they're cutting it out of something like this. This is also 7075 aluminum. Having a bigger notch for the handle doesn't necessarily save you money. If you're cutting it out of a bar, there's no reason not to have a really nice, thick, tapered tang. But it doesn't look too bad. It sounds solid. The wood handle is, historically accurate, so not bad. It's a little thinner, so it's definitely thinner than a martial arts trainer. It's a bit of a compromise. So let's compare this to some others and see how it looks. Does have a decent bit of flex, which is good. So far, I'm happy with this. Now, a lot of the martial arts blades that you get are super thick. Let's look at a couple of examples. This was a training blade meant to be a Kama, not a Gladius, but similar, basically short sword. And as you can see, super rounded, complete just slab with rounded edges, which is what you want, not squared. Yeah, so this was meant to be basically a sparring sword for use with protective equipment, right? Anytime you're using metal, even if it's aluminum, you're going to want protective equipment. This is not Nerf, right? This is not foam, not LARP. But it's made to be safe. And so it's got very blunt edges, but it's still fairly light, even though it's thick, because it's aluminum, not steel. Big difference. So the thing is, you have to think about what it's for. This is just fine for stage. If we're doing a Peter Pan and I want a short aluminum sword for them, no reason I couldn't give them this. Or if we're doing a Julius Caesar or Boudica or something like that, there's no reason I couldn't give one of the soldiers something like this. Suspension of disbelief on stage is just fine. It looks nice and shiny and metal. Doesn't have to look pointy. But if I had a film close-up where I saw this threatening someone, I would not believe that threat. I can tell it's flat from the reflection, and I can tell it's super rounded and super thick. This, a little better. This is more what I would expect to see. It still doesn't look super sharp. And that's one area where I believe there is a place for maybe some subtle CG, is making your stunt props look more like hero props, if you ever have to do a close-up shot of it. But it's close enough that I believe it, but still blunt enough that I can do this and not hurt myself. I wouldn't mind a little extra mass on the edges. That's just me, in part because if I'm going to rent these out, I know they're going to get banged up a lot. And the thicker the edge, the longer they'll last. So you can see we're getting a little rounded ding there. Almost nothing there. So this is meant for abuse, and it is a little bit harder. Next one I'm going to compare to, this was actually an Albion moat sail blade. So Albion makes excellent steel swords, and they did make some aluminum ones. They've done stuff for some shows and some theme parks and things like that. I made the hilt for this one myself, and I did chose to just put aluminum up here as well, just for a little extra durability so it wouldn't split or something, which they did not on this one. Saving some money. But this one, they seem about the same. Again, the edge is thicker. Definitely the point is thicker, but the edge is also thicker on the Albion than it is on the Windlass. The blade overall is thicker, but also the edge. So this is heavier, which means it's going to have a little bit more momentum, but it is blunter and a little bit more durable than these Windlass ones. Next up, I don't have a Gladius from them, but this is a Rogue Steel aluminum blade that I did an earlier video on, thinking about Percy Jackson, Lightning Thief, where it's supposed to be celestial bronze. So this is treated with chemicals to make it look a little bit more like bronze, but this is also 7075 aluminum, another blade length that I got and hilted up. So in this case, a Celtic sort of leaf blade-ish, but let's see how it does. Yeah, almost no damage to the rogue steel, which is, again, thicker and a little bit more rounded. And we are seeing some marks here on the windlass. So, as you can see, with use, this is going to get a little bit chewed up, especially if it's up against some harder blades. It's not going to last forever. It's super easy to grind this down, but almost too easy because, again, one of the things that you run into sometimes is that you'll have clients who get a little over-enthusiastic, or they just stick on a belt sander. And then, you know, after a month-long run, this is going to be like a leaf blade instead of a straight blade because it's gotten ground down so much. Very slight taper to the blade, which means it will get a little thicker as you grind down, but not a whole ton. So no actual like burrs or nicking, nothing that I consider dangerous in this. But if I were using this for the run of a show, after every show, I'd want to have someone just do a little something like that, just to make sure that it's still smooth. And also just to make sure that someone's checking it daily. So, last thing I want to talk about is price. Because these, right now, are super cheap. 120 bucks. Which, especially given the price of aluminum and the tariffs coming in, is pretty surprising. I don't think that's going to last, frankly, especially with the price changes. So I could buy 2 of these swords for the price of one of these blades. I could probably buy like 3 or 4 for the price of a finished sword with one of these blades. And some of these blades aren't even available. Again, Albion, this was a moat sale thing, limited run. You can't buy aluminum swords from a lot of manufacturers just commonly. Rogue Steel is one of the few ones that does actually just commercially make them, but there's usually a wait list. So the fact that there's someone who has these in stock for cheap is pretty impressive. And if I were producing an actual decent budget movie, I'd be able to order a whole ton of these and just like, if they get too messed up, well, swap them out, and that's fine, which is what shows like Highlander did, what a lot of movies do, even if they're even using aluminum. These days, a lot of them movies are actually switching to laminated bamboo, which is even lighter, and I guess more biodegradable. Mike Lebke's been making some of those. I need to check those out sometime. Not a lot of folks making those either, other than specifically prop shops for the movies. But this is, I think, an option. And especially if it's just something getting waved around where you want something light and safe and flashy that isn't going to be pointy steel and isn't going to see heavy combat. Perfect for that. Great costume stuff. Will it hold up for the run of a show if it's a heavy show like Boudica? Hopefully I'll get to find out. I've got a couple more of these coming in just because it seemed like a great deal that I think is not going to last with the tariffs coming in on steel and aluminum and everything else. And these things being made, not in the US, they're made in India. So it seemed like a limited time opportunity. But I also wanted to encourage this trend because I think it would be great if Windlass starts making more aluminum swords. I think that it's a great option for us to have as we make our plays and movies. And even just cosplayers and things like that. There's no reason why you should have to do steel. You should go like steel or foam or like polypropylene. This is the cold steel trainer. Yeah, you can work through your choreo with this or something just fine, but it doesn't look great. You paint it, paint's going to fall off. Having something like this ready to go, I think it's a great option. Not the best option, but for the price, a damn good one. So that's my take. You've seen me do videos on windlass swords before. Often they got chewed up too. That's the steel ones. So par for the course. Windlass aluminum is, I guess, comparable to windlass steel. It's cheaper than most. Maybe not the best, but in stock you can get it, and it looks fine until it gets too beat up. You have to make your own choice. If you're in a production run, at what point is it not safe anymore? When do I need to pull this or swap it out or repair it or whatever? Keep an eye on those. You know, these are not just like, oh, I bought it and I never have to worry about that again. It doesn't quite work that way. But I'm excited by this option, and I look forward to seeing if they do more. So, till next time, Kevin Inoue, Fight Designer LLC, now based in Eugene, Oregon. Stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy, and if you want to find me, I'll be at the Raid on the River Stage Combat Workshop in June in Tri-Cities, Washington area. or at the Seattle Sockeye Stage Combat Workshop again in August, second one of those. And I'm hoping to get some more stuff going around in Eugene as well, but we'll see. Or hopefully on screen sometime. All right, till next time, take care.